last month we were talking about the spring training. Here we are back for the real thing. This is the real show. The first race, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete. IndyCar has been going down to St. Petersburg since 2003. 2004 was an off year. 2005 they came back, and it's been back ever since. So we'll go over the 5 things I'm watching for this weekend. The first point, I'm kind of curious how the new practice format is going to work. They extended it in the first practice session, I think it was midsummer last year, from the typical 60 minutes up to 75 minutes. Now, a lot of times what was going on last year was you weren't seeing a lot of drivers use that full 75 minutes. It was kind of a lull the first 20 minutes. So people are like, well, why don't we go back to 45 minutes again? IndyCar has adjusted. This year, they're going to give you an extra set of red tires. So this first session on Friday, you're going to have everybody's got 2 sets of Firestone red. And that's key, is last year they had 1. And the difference was the second practice session, he didn't have any at all. Now they're basically saying, here's 2 extra sets. Use them as you will. You just got to return what you don't use before qualifying later in the day. So in turn, that should lead to more on-track activity, because now you've got more sets to use, kind of use it or lose it type deal. So I'm curious if the practice sessions kind of ramp up. But the other key is, last year, if you guys remember right, there was a lot of drama in the practices, because on a 1.8 mile track like St. Pete is, there's not a lot of room to get a gap lap. And what that is you don't want to be in traffic trying to simulate a qualifying run. So if you're going to use the red tires, you want a qualifying run, but you don't want to waste them being in the tow of somebody. So what we saw last year were drivers kind of stacking each other up in turn 10, and you saw some wrecks happen. Like Takuma Sato and Grosjean had an incident, and drivers were kind of getting mad at other drivers for stacking other people up, and they thought they were being wrong. So with now 75 minutes available and tires are not going to be an issue, do we see more incidents in these practices? Because you got 27 cars on a 1.8 mile track. You can't have all of them get gap laps. So how does the practice strategy work? So that's the big thing I'm going to be watching the onset of the weekend. The next part is very well those tires. And I don't want to butcher your name. I think it's called Guayuli. It's the new green tire that they're going to use on the street courses. Last year, the red tire, which the green tire is now replacing, the alternate, we'll use that word, that was the better tire in these races. Trying to look for my notes here for the strategy, because what was happening was, usually on street courses, the alternate tire is faster, but in a shorter burst, they fall off quicker. Whereas the primary tire may not be as fast early, but it doesn't fall off as much over the course of a run. But what was happening was teams were adapting to this tire, and the alternate faster tire, they were able to manipulate to where it was actually better than the primary tire for the long run pace too. So you were kind of manipulating on, well, how are you going to use the tire in which stint? Because you have to use one of each. So the race has been shortened to 100 laps a few years ago, which makes it a 2-stop race. You know, one of the stops you're going to go black tires, the other stop you're going to go the alternate. So which way do you do it, and which is the winning factor? Now it's a new alternate tire with the Guayuli, the green tire. Does that tire going to have the performance that the red tire, its predecessor, did? We're going to learn a lot about that if you want to go counter that with the practice. Which tire is going to be the better tire for the race pace too? So kind of leads into each other between the first 2 points, but I'm curious to watch the practice and the tires, which in turn leads to the third point, the strategy. Does it go back to a Firestone primary race to where they're going to last the longest, they're going to have the longest life, obviously a shorter drop-off compared to the other tire. So strategy is definitely going to be the play here. Last year, out of the top, 10 guys, top 11 finishers, 10 of them were on that 2-stop strategy. And a lot of them were using the reds to start off with, the blacks in the middle, reds to the end. A couple of guys might have flipped maybe two stints on reds and on the blacks, but that strategy play is going to be predicated by how you can get these tires working in practice. So that's another factor that's going to be worth watching this weekend, because I'm curious if the tire makes a difference compared to years past. The fourth point, qualifying. This race and the pace has been quick. Last year, it was a track record. This is the first time we broke the track record since 2018. Nobody saw that coming. In fact, in order to get out of the first round of qualifying, you had to break the track record from the year before. So how much faster can these get? Obviously, you got the development. Does this green tire? Is it as quick as the red tire? How much quicker can an IndyCar physically get on a 1.8-mile track? You're already pushing the limits. They're already under a minute. On a 1.8 miles, you're going in less than a minute. How much quicker is it going to be? Because we know qualifying there, 12 of the last 16 years, the winner has started in the top 5. So in order to really give yourself a shot, you got to get out of the first round. In order to get a shot of winning, you really need to make the Fast 6. Where this is important is, over the last 18 years, the eventual season champion has scored a top 10 finish in the season opener in 17 of those 18 finishes. They've accumulated 8 wins and 14 top 5s, including 4 consecutive podiums. So that kind of says St. Pete might dictate your champion later on. But in order to be good at St. Pete, you got to qualify well. So in St. Pete, the eventual champion is at 15 top 10 finishes in 18 years there, including 12 top 5s. 3 of the last 4, they have finished on the podium. And over those last 4 years, of the 12 combined podium opportunities, 11 of those 12 drivers came from a top 10 starting spot. 8 of the 12 came from the top 2 rows, with 5 of those 8 from the front row. So basically, as weird as this sounds, Sunday being race 1, Saturday being the first qualifying of the whole year, in order to position yourself to win a championship, these trends have shown you've got to make it out of the first round of qualifying. In order to really position yourself well, you got to make the Fast 6. Just 4 times since 2011 did somebody finish on the podium in St. Pete and not have a top 12 starting spot, which the top 12 would be getting out of the first round. So qualifying is very crucial on Sunday or Saturday for Sunday's race. So that's the 4th point I'm watching. The final point, can anybody beat Team Penske? Andretti Autosport, they won the preseason in terms of track testing. They were clear the best in thermal. They were good in Sebring. But again, it's testing. Can they turn that into a solid race day on Sundays? They're inexperienced. We talked about that in the preseason commentary. Colt Herta has 65 career starts. The other 3 teammates combined have 64. Can he do enough to lead them? They've only got 3 wins in St. Pete. Ganassi, you would think, yeah, that's a solid team. They've only won once at St. Pete. Whereas Team Penske, well, they've won 6 of the last 9 years there. Scott McLaughlin led 49 laps from the pole, won last year. Will Power got a podium last year. Joseph Newgarden has 3 top 2s in his last 4 years. You got to think those are the favorites. Can somebody knock them off? That's the big thing to watch. Qualifying is going to be key, obviously. Scott Dixon, you would think, well, he's got to come to the list. Out of the 5 street course races last year, Penske won 3 of them. Ganassi won the other 2, and those 2 were won by Dixon. However, in 18 career St. Pete starts, Scott Dixon has never won. It's one of 4 tracks, I believe, that he's never won a race at. He's 0 for 18. However, he does have 4 runner-ups and 3 podiums in his last 6 starts there, too. So, can Scott Dixon do enough to get the win when we know what Penske's capable of? I'm looking more at his teammate Alex Palou. 3 podiums, 5 top 6s, and 5 tries on these tracks last season. He was runner-up here last year. However, he's got that cloud above him of, we know this is probably the last season with Ganassi. He's going to eventually move to McLaren. How much does that factor into his role on Sunday? We know he can qualify well. He's probably the better pick than Dixon based off the odds of Dixon of being 0 for 18, or Palou has gotten increasingly better on these tracks. Marcus Ericsson, yeah, he could be a factor. He's won twice on street courses in 2021. He had a pair of 7th-place finishes and 9th in his other 3 combined St. Pete starts. I want to say he's probably better fantasy play. 1 top 5 in 5 street course races in 2022. So if you're looking in terms of Ganassi, Marcus Armstrong's a rookie. He's never raced in an IndyCar before. I look at him more of a Jimmy Johnson trajectory. So it's down to those 3 other teammates versus Penske, and I just don't see them unseating Penske already. So moral of the story, that's the 5th point. Can anybody beat Penske? Other than that, those are the 5 things I'm watching. Hopefully there's a good race. Hopefully get a good start, because unfortunately we have another month before the series gets back going in Texas. So it's good to get the series going. We got F1 also this weekend. NASCAR will be in Vegas. At least none of them are all at the same time. So please check out our 3 platforms here on the Prime Sports Network for previews, and have a good race weekend.